Hi, I'm Laurel Morrissey, founder of Silver Savvy, and I want to ask you a question. Have you ever really looked at your home, not just as a house, but as a place that needs to carry you through the next 10 or 15 or even 20 years? Most people say, I want to stay in my home, but few people will stop to ask, what would it take to make that possible? So today, we are going to walk through everything you need to know about aging in place safely, confidently, and without waiting for a crisis to force your hand. We're going to talk about what is changing in aging, in healthcare, and in long-term care. We'll touch on why homes really are not ready for us to age and how to fix that, the gaps in planning that most people don't even realize that they have, and finally, how we help clients build life care plans that actually work. This is a conversation that I've had with families across the country at kitchen tables, in hospital rooms, and during quiet moments when someone finally says, we should have done this earlier. Let's get started. So I want to start with the reality of aging in America. We are living longer, and that is the good news, but we are not necessarily living better. The average life expectancy in the US is 79 years old, but our healthy life expectancy, well, it's just 67 years old. That means that most of us can expect more than a decade of managing chronic conditions, mobility changes, or caregiving needs. By age 65, more than 60% of us have 2 or more chronic illnesses. Dementia cases have tripled in recent decades, and yet the systems that we count on, Medicare, the healthcare workforce, family caregivers, are already stretched super thin. Now let's layer in finances, and a third of Americans over 65 have less than $10,000 in savings. Fewer than 20% have a pension these days. And while we often think of Social Security as a guarantee, it is not immune to funding challenges. That's the landscape that we're aging into. Aging well is not just about living long. It is about living smart, and that starts with where and how you live. Let me start with telling you a story about a client of ours, Sarah. Sarah is 68 years old and lives in a 2-story colonial outside of Boston. It's the home where she and her husband and her 3 children hosted holidays and built their life. And she wanted to stay, but she told us, I don't know, I don't want to be a burden on my kids, and I just don't know what I need to think about. So we started with a life care planning evaluation. And here's what we discovered. All of her bedrooms and the full bathrooms were actually upstairs, and the laundry was down in the basement. She had no long-term care coverage, and her retirement plan didn't necessarily account for future care needs. She hadn't talked to her children about what would happen if she couldn't drive or cook or manage her stairs. And that is a very familiar scenario. So we helped Sarah develop a plan, one that addressed her health, her home, and her financial picture. She updated her home with safer lighting. She rearranged her layout to prepare for 1-floor living and got a clearer understanding of future care costs, where we even helped her connect with her financial advisor to build those costs into her long-term strategy. So it was a wonderful outcome. And most importantly, she got ahead of the problem and stayed in control. Next, let's talk about why most homes are not ready for us to age. And here's the part that surprises people. Over 90% of adults say they want to age in place, but only 10% of the homes that we live in are ready for aging adults. Why? Because our homes were built for younger families, not aging bodies. Common risk factors that we see are stairs without 2 railings, slippery tubs in bathrooms, poor lighting in hallways and bedrooms, laundry, as I said, in the basement, doorways that are too narrow for walkers or for wheelchairs, even simple things like step-down entries or rugs or furniture placement can pose fall risks. At Silver Savvy, we conduct full home safety reviews, and the good news, many fixes are fast and affordable. Grab bars in bathrooms, non-slip flooring, smart lighting, furniture rearrangements to create clear pathways. But without that review, many people don't realize how dangerous their homes are until they have had a fall or a hospitalization or a sudden shift in health. Next, let's talk about health and function. Staying in your home is not just about the layout. It is also about your function. your strength, balance, energy, and the ability to manage your daily tasks independently and safely. This is what we call functional aging, and we measure it carefully in our planning process. Another client that we work with, Peter, who is a pickleball aficionado, super sharp, active, but during our assessment, we noticed his balance was poor. We felt that he was a high risk for a fall. He didn't necessarily need medical care, but he did need to start strength and mobility training. So we helped Peter, through his doctor, get connected with a local physical therapist who specialized in aging fitness. And 6 months later, I'm happy to report that his fall risk has dropped dramatically, and he has had a clear plan for maintaining his independence ever since. That's the power of addressing health proactively and not reactively. And it's why we don't just ask, do you have a doctor? We actually ask, can you get up from the floor without help? Do you feel safe walking to the mailbox in the winter? If you needed surgery, is your home recovery friendly? Next, we'll talk about the silent struggle, and that is caregiving. And I spend a lot of time talking about this topic because in the United States, we have reached crisis level. And this is something that almost no one plans for, but everyone eventually will face, and that is caregiving. Most older adults assume that a spouse or a child or a loved one will just step in. But these days, caregiving has become complex. It affects our careers as caregivers, it affects our finances, it affects our relationships, and it can affect our health. Another client that I'm thinking about, Josh, and his sister Donna, came to us after their mom had a minor stroke. They thought they were on the same page until the decisions had to be made. Josh lives nearby and Donna does not. Josh assumed mom would move in, and Donna assumed they would hire help, and mom didn't want either of those options but hadn't told anyone. And it created weeks of tension and guilt. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't have a plan. So we helped the family align around a shared strategy, one that respected mom's wishes, worked for Josh and Donna, and included a backup option if things changed. Now they have clarity and not conflict. So how do we pull this all together through a life care plan, which to me is the holistic solution? Well, that's where Silver Savvy comes in. We do not just provide a checklist. We actually develop a living strategy that includes health planning and screenings, super important as we age, a detailed home assessment and reassessment if possible, as well as modification suggestions, financial preparation for care costs, an evaluation around legal readiness, which, including documents and directives, a discussion and documentation around caregiver roles and expectations, communication plan with loved ones, ongoing updates every year or two or more frequently if necessary. This isn't just helpful during a crisis, it helps to prevent the crisis. It is a journey and a plan. And you don't have to answer every question, but you do need to start asking the right questions, and we're here to help with that. So as I close this video, I have a couple of final thoughts, and that is, aging in place is more than a preference. It is a choice, and a powerful one. But it will only work if it's backed by real planning. So here's what I want to offer you. A free consultation to talk through your home, your health, and your goals and your future. No pressure, no commitment, no hard sell. I just want to help you with documenting the beginning of a plan that is as personal as it is practical. Because you've planned for your retirement and maybe you've planned for your finances, now it's time to plan for your life. So please visit us at silversavvy.com to book your consultation and let us help you stay safe, stay strong, and stay where you want to be. So plan with intention, age well, and live fully.